If you're in tune with the NFL right now, chances are that you've heard of CJ Stroud. Only 11 weeks into the 2023 season and he's already shattering NFL records, putting his name up there with a lot of great quarterbacks and is a potential player to win MVP this season. CJ is an extraordinary player, no doubt, but his rise to the top wasn't easy by any means. CJ Stroud faced a lot of adversity, and to be honest, it's kind of a miracle he got here. CJ Stroud began playing football at 5 years old when his dad introduced him to sports, and after that, CJ immediately fell in love. Stroud began playing in a youth football league at 9 years old, where he dominated. He was bigger than most kids, and at 9 years old, he could throw the ball 50 yards with a perfect spiral and with extreme precision. Stroud was so good that other coaches called him a cheat code and complained that it was unfair. Life was good for CJ. He had a happy family, was finding a lot of success in football, and had no real problems. But it wouldn't last forever. On Sunday, April 12, 2015, in San Diego, a man was jailed for carjacking, kidnapping, robbery, evading an officer with reckless driving, and misdemeanor sexual battery. This man was CJ's dad. His dad would be sentenced to 38 years to life in prison. CJ, his mom Kimberly, and his 3 siblings would struggle without him. It got to the point where they were on the verge of being homeless. But fortunately, his mom received a job offer to manage a storage facility, and that's where CJ would live for a large part of his life. CJ began to hate his dad. He felt betrayed and wanted to be nothing like him. Because CJ's dad loved football, CJ decided to never touch one again. The street life of Southern California began to attract CJ, but after some life and death experiences, CJ inevitably went back to football because it was his passion and his way out. Young CJ told his mom, "You're not gonna have to do this forever. I just want you to know that." In 2016, CJ would begin attending Rancho Cucamonga High School in California. CJ wasn't a top prospect like most of the NFL players. He was actually a bench warmer in his freshman and sophomore season. It wouldn't be until his junior season in 2018 where he would become the starter and have a pretty good season. In his junior season, he had 2,343 passing yards and 20 touchdowns. But he was only rated a 3-star. CJ didn't have the resources all the other kids had. He didn't have a private quarterback coach or the 7-on-7 teams. He didn't even have good nutritious food to eat at home. CJ improved all on his own. He would often study clips of Drew Brees on YouTube and implement it into his game. As a result of his hard work and dedication, after multiple rejections from the Elite 11, he finally got invited in 2019. The Elite 11 is a competition between the best high school quarterbacks in the nation, and only one of them is named the Elite 11 MVP. CJ wasn't even supposed to be invited, but one of the players had gone disqualified because of some issues, and so they selected CJ instead. His performance would earn him the title of the Elite 11 MVP, which tremendously helped CJ put his name on the map. Following the competition, he received offers from Michigan, Oregon, Georgia, and of course, Ohio State. Going into the last year of high school, all eyes were on CJ, and he didn't disappoint. In week 1 versus the Roosevelt Mustangs, CJ would throw for 381 yards and 5 touchdowns in their 50-31 victory. This was really the first sign that CJ was on another level this season. CJ would finish his 2019 senior season with 3,878 passing yards and 51 touchdowns, and would lead his team to a deep playoff run. CJ that year was named an All-American and was now rated a 5-star quarterback. CJ would visit and then eventually commit to Ohio State, where he would be a backup to Justin Fields. Stroud had no playing time in his true freshman season, except for one snap. And in that one snap, CJ would rush for a 48-yard touchdown. CJ would finally be named the starter in the 2021 season after Justin Fields declared himself for the NFL. Ohio State's head coach Ryan Day said that CJ had earned himself the starting spot because of his decision-making, leadership skills, and accuracy. Something I haven't mentioned yet is how much of a leader CJ is. Wherever he went, CJ would treat his teammates as brothers and would care for them outside of just football. Naturally, people would want to play for CJ more because he wasn't just a good quarterback, but a good person too. In CJ's debut game against Minnesota, he would have 294 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. An amazing first impression. Ohio State fans were instantly hooked by CJ. The CJ-led Buckeyes would finish the season with a record of 10-2, but would fail to make the playoffs after a loss to their bitter rival Michigan. CJ in that game had 394 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. CJ played out of this world, but despite his efforts, they still lost, and Ohio State fans were not happy. Ohio State would still still be invited to the Rose Bowl, where they would face off against Utah, and CJ would go off. He would throw for 573 yards and a record-breaking 6 touchdowns in their 48-45 win. This is one of the best performances for any player I've ever seen. This game showed just how special CJ was, and he would actually be a finalist for the Heisman Trophy, but he would fall in 4th place. CJ had an amazing season. 4,435 passing yards, 44 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions. And his next season wouldn't be any different. CJ would lead his team to an 11-0 run until they inevitably faced their rivals once again. The 11-0 Ohio State Buccaneers and the 11-0 Michigan Wolverines would be facing off for a spot in the championship, this time in Ohio State territory, and it was a disaster. CJ would throw for 349 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 crucial interceptions in a 45-23 loss. CJ didn't have a bad game, but a careless mistake by him cost Ohio State a loss against the rivals on their home field. As you already know, the fans were furious, even sending CJ multiple death threats.
And I looked at my phone, people telling me I can't wait till you transfer to Arkansas State. You should so all type of crazy stuff.
CJ didn't get the fairy tale ending that everyone wanted, but one thing was for sure, CJ was an elite quarterback. He would be a Heisman finalist again, but fell in 3rd place. After 2 excellent years at Ohio State, he finally declared himself for the 2023 NFL Draft. The Texans were coming off a horrible season with a record of 3-13. They were very bad. They made coaching changes, player changes, and most importantly, had a pretty good draft, drafting players like Tank Dell, Will Anderson, and of course, CJ Stroud. This new Texans team was ready for the 2023 season, and no one expected what would happen next. CJ would make his debut versus the Ravens, where he would throw for 242 yards, but they would still lose that game 9-25. To be fair though, the Ravens are a Super Bowl contending team, but it would be week 2 against the Colts where the NFL saw what CJ was all about. Despite losing 31-20, he would throw for 384 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. One thing about CJ was that he almost never threw interceptions throughout his entire football career, and it wouldn't be any different in the NFL. In fact, his first interception would come all the way in week 6 against the Saints, where they won 20-13 anyways. In defense of CJ, the Saints defense is leading the league in interceptions and is just overall a top defense in the NFL. Something funny though is that CJ's interception actually got fumbled and the Texans got the ball immediately back. But the game that everyone is waiting for is week 9 versus the Buccaneers, where CJ will throw for 470 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Stroud was no exaggeration, perfect. With 46 seconds left, he led the Texans to a 75-yard touchdown drive to win the game 39-37. If this isn't clutch, I don't know what is. CJ broke the record for single game passing yards by a rookie. He also became the youngest quarterback ever with 4+ touchdowns, 400+ passing yards, and 0 interceptions in a game. In his most recent game, CJ faced off against the Bengals and outplayed Joe Burrow in a 30-27 victory. The Bengals didn't play badly at all in this game. CJ was just too good. CJ Stroud has taken over the NFL world and we're only in week 11. The Texans already have more wins than last year and are way better. And a major part of that is because of CJ. CJ's journey to the top hasn't been easy. From being dirt poor to struggling to get opportunities in high school and to getting death threats at Ohio State. Despite all his battles, CJ never succumbed under the pressure. Instead, he persevered and only grew. CJ's NFL career is off to a great start, and I believe that he has the potential to be one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever touch a football. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to like and subscribe. It'd be greatly appreciated. Let me know what y'all think about CJ Stroud in the comments below. Anyways, have a good day and peace.